beyond thrilled to be here to talk about how the Recycling Partnership is increasing household participation in US recycling. Before I dig in on that, a little background on us. So the Recycling Partnership is a mission-driven organization focused on building a better recycling system. We're confident that we can deliver one that sort of brings to life the economic and environmental benefits we know our communities and our residents deserve. We're turning 10 this year, so we're really excited to be here today to say that as a result of our first 10 years of work, we've diverted over 1 billion pounds of new recyclable material. We've done that by granting more than 297 local recycling programs. We've given support to recycling facilities so that they can improve their ability to sort and capture materials. We've opened up access for 1.7 million new households in the United States, and we've delivered free resources, toolkits, education, and outreach for nearly 3,700 US recycling programs. But as we've done that, we've noticed a really important trend among residents. On the one hand, just a tremendous majority of US residents will say that recycling makes a difference. It's important, it delivers positive results. They'll even say they want it to be better. 81% will say we're not doing enough as a society to combat wastefulness. On the other hand, this is a pretty upsetting stat. We've calculated that 76% of residential recyclables in the United States are ending up in trash in homes. And only 43% of US households are actively participating in a local recycling program. Why is this? So part of the story here is absolutely access. We know that millions of US households still don't have access to convenient collection of recyclables, and that there are major inequities there at play. So for example, majority Black cities are less likely to have recycling services than when compared to US cities overall. But if we narrow our field of vision to just those that have convenient curbside collection, that have the ability to set out and easily tap into their local recycling system, we see that we're still losing about 50% of the recyclables that we could capture today with no changes to the recycling system. Why is that happening? Well, first, people are confused and they are frustrated. You may not know this, but there are 9,000 distinct recycling programs across the country, and that's just residential programs. So how you recycle, what colors we use, what bins you have may be dependent on where you are. We also see, and I think you'll probably experience this today just in your daily lives, that the packaging landscape is evolving, and it's evolving quickly. We're being presented every day with new formats of packages, and that's, while we think we know how to recycle, that can be quite confusing when you're actually standing over a bin. We're also seeing an erosion of confidence. Less than half of Americans will say they believe their recyclables or their materials are being made into new things. And so this erosion in sort of the definitional belief in the definitional promise of recycling is very concerning to us. 75% of US residents will say they can't recall receiving a communication about their local recycling program. And sometimes that's because they aren't. Programs are far too under-resourced to communicate at the levels that they need to. But often that's because we're not designing the right communications, the right supports to meet people or to serve people when they need them. And that brings me to this last piece about context. We're seeing that in-home setups are insufficient and that we're not providing that information when people need it most. Generally, as an industry, we've relied on one solution to solve this challenge, and that's more information. And while we know that information is an important lever, it's a really important tool to deliver, information alone is not going to change behavior, and it's not going to deliver the supports that people need. So we've asked ourselves at the partnership, can we do more? We, 2 years ago, launched what we call our Center for Sustainable Behavior and Impact, which works to leverage social sciences to deliver innovative, human-centered solutions to these 4 key behavioral areas. So first, we're looking at how can we increase participation? How can we increase the frequency with which people set out their recyclables at the curb? How can we increase capture while decreasing contamination? And by that I mean that 50% that we know we're not capturing from households, how can we make sure we're getting that while not getting what we don't want to have in the bin? And then lastly, how can we build a really confident recycling participants? How can we make sure that people are understanding what's happening to their materials, they feel confident, they know that their participation matters? I'm gonna spend the rest of my time here focusing in on just one pilot, but I should say that in our short time, we've been quite busy. We've surveyed over 10,000 Americans and tested interventions in 60,000 US households all across the country. And this one, which I'll talk to you about today, is a pilot that we conducted in Cincinnati, Ohio. So there's a lot of information here. I'll try to walk you through it. Basically, we went into this with the hypothesis that we're losing material as it flows through the home. So if you don't have an in-home bin in your bathroom, in your kitchen, and so forth, we're probably not capturing those recyclables because realistically, we're not carrying it down to the kitchen or outside of the house in that moment. And so we did a sort of two-phase pilot where we delivered in-home bins and then allowed people to automatically to one part of the city. And then we allowed the other part of the city to opt in. In this first phase, we learned that actually that practice of opting in, getting that mailer inviting me to request that in-home bin, was more successful in driving participation than just providing bins to everyone. So then we wanted to dig in a little more deeply on that. We did, in a second phase, we distributed a series of 5 mailers to 5,000 households. We, of course, had a control to compare against. And these mailers encourage people to request that in-home bin. What we found was really interesting. So about 20% of households ultimately requested an in-home bin. And if you look at the sort of results across all groups, you see that whether you requested a bin or whether you just received those mailers and just received the education and information contained in those mailers, both groups had statistically significant increases in participation. Good news, but also slightly confusing because it looks like if you just look at the results across all groups, it looks like it doesn't matter if you receive that in-home bin. But then when we went a step further and we overlaid the behaviors that we knew about those households prior to the start of the pilot, we see a different pattern emerge. What we see is that for our recyclers and our infrequent recyclers, so if you're participating at all, you kind of track with those same results. You have whether you receive information or other tools, you're going to increase your participation. But a different pattern emerges with our non-recyclers. Their information alone, those mailers, were not enough to statistically increase participation. On the other hand, if you took the extra step as a non-recycler of requesting that in-home bin, your participation increased significantly. This is a really big deal for us, and I'll tell you why. I'll leave you with sort of 2 thoughts on why. One is that getting people to participate in our industry, go from no participation to participating, is notoriously difficult. Some would say impossible, but that's not true. And we see that here, that if we can provide the right supports to the right people, we can help them go from 0 to 1, go from non-participating to participating. Secondly, studies like this have really big and meaningful impact for our programs. As I said earlier, the 9,000 programs that deliver recycling services to the 125 million US households are very significantly under-resourced. And so if we're considering whether or not we can deliver a $20 per household bin versus a $7 per household mailer series, it really matters from my budget perspective where that intervention is going to work. And so it's studies like this that allow us as recycling professionals to move past the blanketed approach of intervention and provide people what they really need when they really need it. So thank you for your time. I look forward to connecting with each of you so we can continue this very meaningful work. And thank you, Eric.